Hey everybody, we are live on a Tuesday afternoon. The last week, half of a week, I've been in Los Angeles for the Astra Film Awards, where I also appeared on the news in Bakersfield. Saw the John Campea show, went on the Warner Brothers Backlot tour, and some other fun stuff like that. But just got back into town. Didn't have time today to shoot and edit a video, but a bunch of interesting, fun movie news has dropped over the last day and a half, and so I thought might as well go live, give my thoughts on some of the big news that is dropping. In particular, Chris Evans is in talks to return to the MCU. They've said that Kraven the Hunter appears to be the last movie in the Spider-Man villain universe. And then some interesting comments were made about Greta Gerwig's Narnia from Amy Pascal, the producer. Just wanted to touch on each of those subjects real quick. Go ahead and join me in the chat. Let me know, what do you think about all of these movie headlines, pieces of news that have dropped over the last little bit of time? Likewise, if you want me to do more of these kind of impromptu movie news live streams, I look back on the last couple of years and I feel like I should have done a lot more of these. They're fun to do. I think they build a little bit of a connection here, as well as they're just more timely and they're relevant to what's happening today. And there's something fun about that. So if you want more of these, let me know down below in the comment section. With all of that said, the first piece of news I wanted to talk about today is that it's being reported by the major trades. This is not rumor mill. This is not leakers. This is actually film journalists reporting on it. Chris Evans is in talks to return for Avengers Doomsday. So extraordinarily likely that this is going to happen. He will be back for the next Avengers film. As of right now, we don't know what part he's playing. Now, of course, in the MCU, he's most famously known as Captain America, but he also played Johnny Storm in 2 Fantastic Four movies, and then reprised that role in Deadpool and Wolverine just this year. And being that Doomsday as well as Secret Wars are multiverse films, we don't know exactly how this will work. We don't know who he will be playing, but there's many different ways this could play out, and they could do something wild, crazy, and different. He's not playing Captain America or Johnny Storm. So, what do I personally think about this news? Well, the first thought that I had when I read the headline, saw the tweets, Chris Evans finally returning to the MCU. Chris Evans will be in the next Avengers movie. The first thought that went into my head was, wow, it has been, what is that, 5 months since we last saw him in the MCU? What was that? The last MCU movie that came out? Man, he's going to be in the next Avengers movie? What was the last Avengers movie he was in? The last Avengers movie. So some of the headlines for it I thought were just a little bit funny, because he returned to the MCU this year already. So reporting that he's coming back as news, it's not really new. Thus, I'm not sure it's entirely news in that sense. But confirming that he will be in Doomsday is, of course, news in a sense. From there, to preface my feelings on everything they've announced about Doomsday, everything we know about it, got to start off by saying this. The Russos and the writers, for me, have the best track record in the entire MCU. Every project that they've done together is in my top 10 MCU films. So, and they've got the top 2 spots. Right there, I don't doubt that they can make a good movie that I will be very excited about. And then other thing about this, as soon as they said we're doing a multiverse saga, I always kind of assumed at some point in time we're going to bring back our old Avengers, our retired Avengers. If we're doing Secret Wars, if we're doing all this stuff, at some point in time they're going to come back. So it wasn't surprising to me that like Evans and Downey returning. That's not shocking to me. It's just official now and confirmed. So that's the background on this. The team that they have recruited to do the next 2 Avengers movies, I think, are the best team that Kevin Feige's ever worked with. They just work great in this system. And I'm not surprised that we're doing multiverse, and I don't mind that we're bringing back Evans and Downey. But, to me, it is so incredibly weird that we're getting announcements about the return of our former Avengers before we have any idea who the current Avengers actually are. Stop and think how weird that is. We are 5.5 years past Endgame. We are 1.5 phases. We're like 17,000 projects because of the Disney Plus shows, and we don't know who the current Avengers are. Like, we know that MODOK was an Avenger real briefly for a little bit there. Like, that's what we know, like jokes. But we do not know who the actual current lineup of Avengers are. And before they tell us that, the thing that they're using to get us excited for the next Avengers movie isn't the Avengers, isn't the actual lineup. It's, hey, Robert Downey Jr.'s coming back. Hey, Chris Evans is coming back. And that just strikes me as so peculiar. Like, they're treating a fairly obvious multiverse decision. Sure, bring back our most popular actors. Whether as their main versions, as variants, whatever it is, let's bring them back. Obvious thing to do. But they're treating it like stunt casting, and the stunt casting is more important than the actual casting. They're treating this casting as a gimmick. And what I mean by that is, it's Avengers. Who are the actual Avengers? Who are the stars of the movie? Who is the team? How will they interact with each other? Who are the stars of our movie? Who are the stars of the MCU currently? We don't know. We don't know who they even think are the stars. And before they tell us that, before we even know who's the stars of this film, they're dangling in front of us, look who's returning. Look at, we got Robert Downey Jr., we got Chris Evans. It's all about that. And that's what's concerning to me. That's what's disappointing to me. Because I felt what they did so well, phases 1 through 3, was taking B-level, C-level, D-level characters and making them the stars that we love. Guardians of the Galaxy were not mainstream popular characters until James Gunn and Kevin Feige worked their magic and made us love them. Iron Man was like C, B- Marvel character. He was not known to the mainstream, and they made him the most popular and bankable characters and stars of the last 15 years. That was their magic. And they haven't done that with the current lineup of heroes that they have, the current franchises that they have. Nothing is remotely in the same ballpark of popularity of what they were able to build before. I mean, you have Spider-Man in there a little bit, but Spider-Man, of course, comes from phase 3, not from phase 4 and 5. That's what's like frustrating and concerning to me. They fumbled the transition. They haven't built up excitement for the new characters. So instead of being like, here's our Avengers, look what we're doing, it's all about remember the past. Hey, remember our past Avengers? Remember them? Remember how much you loved them? That's concerning to me. That's the piece in all of this where I go, that's not the way this is supposed to work. You're supposed to, as we work through this, you figure out who the stars are, and then the spice is the multiverse gimmicks. That's supposed to be the spice. That's not supposed to be the whole thing. That's not supposed to be what props it all up. And even the fact that it's Chris Evans returning to the MCU, we just did that 5 months ago, and you're still that's what you got. That's disappointing, and it comes off as desperate. Two things can be true at once. Two things that were true at once. That they recruited a great team and the writer-director. I think that's the best the MCU has. I like Chris Evans. I like Robert Downey Jr. I think they're great talents. They can do more than just one thing. And also, they've failed to build up a new set of characters, a new set of plot lines, a new set of storytellers. So all we have is to go back to the past. That's the thing about this that just feels underwhelming. It feels like all we have left is to go to the past because we haven't built up the new stuff that people are excited for. Inherently, that's disappointing. Inherently, that comes off as desperate and like you didn't You didn't figure it out. What you tried failed. Kang didn't work, and we had some other issues there. So we have to come up with the fallback plan. The fallback plan, let's play it safe plan is, let's just do what worked in the past. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could be more excited for it. And I will go into the movie wanting to have a big grin on my face, wanting to be won over. And with the team, I think they'll make a good movie. But it's lacking that creative spark that was there before, where they discovered things and developed things. This is, let's go back to what worked in the past. Alrighty, that's story number 1 of the day. I'm trying to follow along in the chat, and there's a good bit of people, generally speaking, agreeing. It just feels kind of like that desperation. So the comments, Sean, are you excited to see Fantastic Four and the Avengers? Sure. Like, that's exciting. That's different, but I haven't even met these Fantastic Four yet, so it's like borrowed trust, or like I really hope Kevin Feige does them right so that they fit well in the Avengers, but I don't even know who they're interacting with, so it's tough for me to be super excited for something when there's like so much to it that I don't know. Like, I need to know who my Avengers are to know how much I can get excited for them. Sean, I think this is the first time I've seen your stream. Yes, I hopefully we'll have more of these so you can catch more of them in the future. So, second topic of the day. Gotta switch over my link on here. All right, second topic of the day. Report coming out from the Wrap saying, insiders are saying that as for now, Kraven the Hunter, sit down, grab a box of Kleenex. I know there's going to be a lot of upset people in the chat. Kraven the Hunter appears to be the end of the Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe. It is the end of the Spider-Man villain universe, at least for now. So this report once again came out over the last 24 hours saying that essentially what the report said was Sony's plan currently after Kraven is it's all about Spider-Man. So of course we've got Spider-Man 4, and then we have Beyond the Spider-Verse, and then we have Spider-Noir. 3 overt Spider-Man projects. That's the focus. That's where they're headed. And it's one of those pieces of news where I think everyone else in the universe saw it and went, yeah, okay, finally you've come to your senses. Like, someone throw it in there like, so there will be no El Muerto? Like, these projects have been just like a running gag that they were going to do an El Muerto movie. And the fact that this is crazy. You watch Morbius, and the post-credit scene on Morbius, Vulture comes out of nowhere, and they're like, we got a Spider-Man problem we got to deal with. And you're like, what? Like, what? Morbius going to team up with Vulture to fight Spider-Man? Are you really planning on doing that? Of course they're not. Of course, that's never going to happen. You get to the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and a news broadcast pops up of Spider-Man, and you're like, oh, they're going to do that. Look, they're going to do it. Nope. The post-credit scene on the movie that came out 2 months later is Venom going back to his universe, and then they go nowhere with it. So it's like the weirdest, biggest tease of a franchise that has ever existed. It's literally has Spider-Man in the name of the continuity or whatever, and he's not in any of the movies. They kept doing the weirdest and the dumbest teases ever. Like, we gotta get Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man, I hate this guy. Let's warp over to his world. Or, Madam Web. For the 5 of you who've seen the movie, they even do this play around deal where, Mother Parker's pregnant with Peter, and they're like, what do you think we should name him? And everyone in the audience is just rolling their eyes like, yeah, we get it. That's Peter Parker's mom. Yes, we get it. She's pregnant with Spider-Man. No one cares about whatever this is supposed to be. Supposedly, the original plot line for Madam Web was basically the Terminator, where the villain isn't trying to kill all of the Spider-Man side characters that no one cares about. the villain is trying to kill pregnant Mama Parker, pregnant with Peter Parker. And so Madam Web, who can see the future, is trying to stop this from happening so that he can become Spider-Man. That is immediately a much darker and more interesting movie. But they're not interested in a more interesting movie. They're interested. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea why they think that there was any demand for any of this outside of Venom. Venom is a popular enough character that it made sense. Weird to do it totally detached from Spider-Man, but at least he's popular enough for it to work. So what do? They give us Madam Web and Morbius. Like, all these characters, they don't fit, they don't work as standalone anti-heroes or whatever. And so they don't do the interesting version of Madam Web where they're trying to kill a pregnant woman. Pregnant with Spider-Man. That would have been fun. But so it seems like finally they looked at the box office results, they looked at the critical reaction, they looked at the audience reaction. They just read the comment section on any video put out about their dumb shared universe over the last 3 years, and they went, oh, they think we're idiots. And outside of Venom, we're losing money. And then they looked at how much money it's reported that Kraven is likely to make this weekend, and they went, okie dokie, let's make this the end. Maybe it'll surprise us, but as for now, this was a really weird, utter failure of an experiment right here. Like, let's move on. We'll do anything else besides this because this did not work. And to the surprise of no one, because it was always a really bad idea. And always a very cynical idea. The idea that we're doing a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man, and it's just because you control the rights to Spider-Man. Going back to late 90s, Marvel was just trying to make money wherever possible, so they were selling the rights wherever they could. And so for chump change, Sony bought the rights to make the Spider-Man characters into movies, and therefore they've had the rights for almost 30 years now. And it makes them a ton of money for the Spider-Man movies. And they're trying to exploit it. They're just trying to, like, in the true sense, like, milk it for every last drop. And they're realizing pretty quickly, oh, people like Spider-Man villains as Spider-Man villains, not as standalone characters outside of Venom. And they've been trying to, like, the history of all the projects they've tried to do over the last 15 years that were these spin-offs, it's just insane. Just insane, bad decision-making. The sort of thing that they could randomly take any 10 of us that are watching right now. Right now we have over 200 people watching. Any 10 of us, put us in a room and say, hey guys, do you want an El Muerto movie? Like, do you think that El Muerto movie? Do you want that? And we'd all go, what? No, that is not commercially viable. That is not something with broad commercial appeal. Just because it is some way associated with Spider-Man does not mean people will watch it. If you think he's a great villain, just make him the villain in a Spider-Man movie. But if you don't think he's a good enough villain to put in a Spider-Man movie, he's probably not a good enough character to carry his own movie. Just the common sense to this, that just stop and think about it and you go, oh, this makes absolutely no sense. We don't think that these characters will work in a Spider-Man movie, but we think they'll work on their own as anti-heroes? Nonsense. Utter nonsense. There was one of these that I think we all wanted. It was Aunt May the movie. And unfortunately now we will not be getting Aunt May the movie, at least for now. Maybe that's what the new universe is. Like, it's like centered around her. She's the Nick Fury of this Spider-Man universe. It's not about the villains anymore. It's about every other stupid side character in the Spider-Man universe. Aunt May, spy, espionage thriller. She brings the team of nobodies together, and and no one will buy tickets for it because this is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. All right, we had a couple super chats come in, and we got one more main topic on here about Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie. More weird stuff. Sometimes people, they make these statements and you go, why on earth would you say that about your film? Zach Millen Talks Movies says, how long before Johansson signs on? Give it a week. Yeah, I mean, I assume we're going to see all of them back. Everyone's coming back. Whether it's Doomsday or whether it's Secret Wars, we're going to see all of them back. I don't think there's, if how will when they'll reveal all this, I don't know. Will they keep any of it as secret so you're in the theater and like, oh, look, an actual surprise? Or will they tell us everything in advance? I don't know. I assume that they saw the success of Deadpool and Wolverine and the success of Spider-Man No Way Home and how much people actually appreciated being surprised in the theater. And they will probably lean into that. So if they're telling us Robert Downey Jr., telling us Chris Evans, they've probably got some more big surprises in the works that will make us have big, gigantic grins on our faces. But those names, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., those will sell enough tickets that will be profitable just by throwing those names in there. So, we'll see. Mr. Daniel Skinner, do you think it's sad that two Marvel roles from Aaron Taylor Johnson ultimately went nowhere with Quicksilver and Kraven? I mean, we'll find out. Maybe Kraven will be a big surprise hit. I'm sure it won't be, but maybe we'll be surprised if something like that happens. I didn't never mind. It didn't bother me what they did with Quicksilver because they gave him a prominent enough role in that film. His death was important to prop up everywhere they went with Scarlet Witch and Wanda. And so everyone she cares about, she loses. That's so important to her journey and everywhere they went with her that it didn't bother me at all, really, that they did that. But you kind of look back now and you go, I wish we got more time with him. If we're doing multiverse stuff, if we bring back Wanda, I sure hope we bring back Quicksilver to do more there. But it is interesting that, he's this guy that's been around starring in movies for 14 years, but also kind of seems to get some of these ones that don't go anywhere. Like, he's in all of these gigantic films, but he hasn't yet had his big thing that's really gone on across multiple films. It's fascinating. Hollywood careers, they're all a little bit different. All right, one more question, then we'll get on to that. Actually, this is an important statement. Who is El Muerto? Exactly. Who is El Muerto? No normal person knows in the general public. The comic reads, I'm sure if you're using the Spider-Man, normal people don't know who El Muerto is, and they don't know he's connected to Spider-Man. So the idea of doing a Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man based on El Muerto because of his connections to Spider-Man is insane. It's just like it's a movie business malpractice levels of insanity and flushing money down the drain. Zach again, thank you so much. Sony needs a Spidey movie every 5 years. What now? If you average it out, that we're 22 years since the first Spider-Man movie, 3 Tobys, then we got 2 Andys, 3 of Mr. Holland, 2 animated, 22 divided by 10. Right there, it's way more often than every 5 years. And and the market has sustained it. There's enough interest in Spider-Man, in particular when you have an animated one that's multiverse and one that's more traditional. The market sustains it. People love Spider-Man. As much as we complain about the reboots, how many different versions of Spider-Man do we need? And we all bought a ticket. The one that flopped, Amazing Spider-Man 2, the big dud, made $750 million, something like that. Look at how much money the dud Spider-Man movie made and compared to so many other movies that we consider hits. Now, it cost a lot of money, so there's a little bit more to it than that, but on a financial level, it did underperform, but it underperformed because they spent a lot on it. It was a gigantic box office haul by any normal, reasonable standard. And that's the dud. That's the insanity. Like, there's so much demand for actual Spider-Man. Even even if you go Miles, we can even convert this. We've got multiple Spider-Man. If they did a Spider-Gwen movie, live action animated, it would do the same number. It would do the same numbers as the Spider-Verse movies. That'd be a hit because it's a popular character. that's it's spreading out there. But like taking a villain and trying to make him an anti is crazy. Like we could just sit here and spitball and come up with ways for Sony to milk the Spider-Man teat long enough to make more money and put out more spin-offs, and whatever we would come up with would be better than El Muerto. Like, that was the thing they were doing. They did Madam Web with all of these other rando, like, Spider-Woman versions of the characters, and it is just Spider-Gwen. You put out 2 animated movies that made it real clear. People love Spider-Gwen. I got little girls. I can tell you right now, girls love Spider-Gwen. I've been in Fortnite. People love to use the Spider-Gwen skin. We didn't do that. No. Let's do El Muerto. Just crazy. Alrighty. One more topic of the day. And we got some super chats. We'll take a couple more questions. It's not really a Q&A, but I'd like to answer a few questions. There's a quick one right here. What are your thoughts on the Sonic clip? I haven't seen it. I don't watch clips. I hardly ever watch clips. Even trailers, I stop watching trailers unless I'm covering them because I think it'll be popular for my channel. But I'll stop watching trailers at a certain point in time when I stop covering them. When Jurassic World Dominion came out, this was pretty stupid. Whatever movie I saw in the theater right before I was about to see that movie, the trailer came up for Jurassic World Dominion. I covered my ears. I was doing this and talking, and people thought I was like crazy. But it's just because I didn't want to watch the trailer. So I don't watch any clips at all. So it's not just a Sonic thing. It's a everything thing. Alrighty. Final topic of the day. We got a little bit of news about the Greta Gerwig Chronicles of Narnia film. There's speculation that there's some studios that are really angry that a Netflix movie is potentially going to get IMAX screens because Greta said she wanted a theatrical release to want to do this. So there's some struggle behind the scenes, and then reports came out they're filming it next year. And then Amy Pascal, who produced she was with Sony for a long time, heavily involved with a number of Spider-Man projects. So she's doing this Barbie film, gave an interview with Deadline. And you can watch the interview. It's on their channel. The quotes are spreading all over Twitter, but not a lot of people have actually watched the clips themselves. But, so she gave this interview and she was asked about Greta Gerwig's version of the Chronicles of Narnia. And the quote she gave is very, very, very weird. And she says, "It's a very new take on Narnia. It's all about rock and roll." So when I saw that the interview was actually posted on the internet, you can see how she said it. So I looked it up, and essentially the interviewer's like, "So this is going to be a new take. You're trying to do something new with it." And she goes, "Yeah, it's a new take. It's all about rock and roll." It says it matter of fact. She doesn't say it like smirk. She doesn't say it and laugh. She says it matter of fact. And he's like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." And they start talking. So many of us read this quote on Twitter, saw this quote when she said it, and we went, "What? What on earth are you talking about? What on earth does that mean? What are you implying? Where on earth are you going with this?" So I made a tweet, and it just, with that quote, it basically said, "This sounds awful," or terrible, something like that. And the vast majority of people agreed with me, and a handful of people were like aghast that anybody would doubt Greta Gerwig for anything that she would do because of her track record. So, as soon as they announced Greta Gerwig was doing Chronicles of Narnia, I was very nervous. Now, you can look at her track record, that she's put out movies that were well received by audiences and critics. There's no reason to doubt that she's talented, that she can put out an interesting film that will probably resonate with a lot of people. She's proven that. But that doesn't mean she's the right person to adapt the Chronicles of Narnia. And in particular, because she is a writer-director that does have a distinct voice and distinct vibe, ideas that she likes to explore, and she's adapting the writings of C.S. Lewis, one of the most beloved Christian thinkers and theologians, and now she will be adapting his most beloved not narratives, fictional writings that she did that are allegories for Christianity, and in particular in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, very overtly Christ allegories. And so you immediately hear that she's doing that, and you go, I don't doubt that she could do something interesting. I just don't think that what makes her a beloved director with an interesting voice is what Narnia needs to be a faithful adaptation. So I've always been nervous about them bringing her in. Some of it, it's just in general, I don't really trust Hollywood, Netflix, any of these major corporations to adapt the writings of C.S. Lewis because they are just so infused with beliefs. It's not just a random thing. It's not Batman. It's literally allegory for the faith that I hold. A lot of concerns about her. So then when you start getting these statements from the producer, and she's like, it's a very new take on Narnia. That's not what I think fans of C.S. Lewis and the fans of Chronicles of Narnia want to hear. They don't want a new take on Narnia. They want a faithful adaptation of Narnia. They don't feel it is something that is broken, that needs fixing. It just needs to be adapted, brought over from one medium where it is now a timeless classic over into another medium where we want a timeless classic version of it. And so you hear, it's a very new take on it. A lot of us hear that and immediately go, ooh, that's the opposite of what I want to hear. That's not good. Beyond, like, it reminds me of Peter Jackson talking about adapting Tolkien. And he made these statements, I don't remember the exact quote was, but about how, like, his job isn't to put his spin on it. His job is to be a faithful shepherd of it, to rightfully, as best he can, bring to life the world of Middle Earth and these beloved stories to the screen as faithfully as possible. There's changes that need to be made because of mediums, because of length, a number of things like that. But that's his job, not to like infuse it with his ideas and his flavor. And you hear, oh, we're doing a new take on Narnia. And it immediately feels like we're trying to infuse our ideas, our spin on it, do something different, when it's always weird to me when they do these adaptations where they're adapting an IP with a built-in audience. The audience, you know they have a built-in audience because they love that thing for what it is. And then you say, yeah. We want to make a thing for that audience by changing it from that thing that they love. Why are you doing that? Why would you think that's what we wanted? It's bizarre. That leads to the other part of the statement, that's where it gets even weirder, because she didn't just say it's a new take. Like, she said, it's all about rock and roll. And I watched the video. I watched it because I wanted to see, how does she say this? Like, what's the tone? What's the vibe? What's the nature of it? I still have no idea what she means. If she's joking, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Because it's all about rock and roll. What? What? Tonally? Literally? What are you saying? I don't know. And when you're adapting something that is so beloved, has stood the test of time, many generations, if you're trying to build confidence in audiences, what you don't do is say really strange things that make it seem like you have no idea what you're doing. Saying you want to do a new take makes me, ooh, that's not good. Oh, what's your new take? It's rock and roll, baby. Like, what? What are you talking about? Where are you going with this? What on earth does that mean? So as I mentioned over on Twitter, I had some people like try to like, it's cute that you're doubting Greta Gerwig. Like, well, not doubting her talent. I'm doubting if this makes any sense. It's like I kept asking this one person specifically, like, what makes her a good fit for Narnia? And what about these quotes gets you excited for it being an adaptation of Narnia? Never responded to any of that, but they're like, oh, I don't want another boring adaptation. She's such a fresh, interesting director. She'll do something new and different with it. And if you just love Greta Gerwig and you don't mind that they're going to change Narnia, and so you're excited to whatever she wants to cook, let her cook. That's a fair position to hold. And I'll hear that and I go, gotcha. I understand what you're saying. I understand why you're excited for it. However, if you're not able to understand why a bunch of people that have grown up reading the Chronicles of Narnia and C.S. Lewis would read these quotes and go, what are we doing? If you can't figure that out, if you don't understand why it's all about rock and roll in regards to this classic traditional adaptation, like book from C.S. Lewis, if you don't understand why people would go, what? That's weird. It's pretty obvious why these comments are raising eyebrows and making people go, I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know what this is about. So, this continues to be one of these projects that just has me very concerned because everything they're saying, everything they're doing just sounds bad to me. It sounds off and it sounds wrong. All right. I had some super chats come in or respond to a few comments, but not really looking to do a Q&A, so won't go on too long here. Mike the Great Studios with super chat. Thank you so much. Sean, besides Spider-Verse 3, what are the other ideas do you think Sony can do to keep Spider-Man movies? I feel like they have already done everything they can do with their ownership of Spider-Man. You can do Spider-Gwen. Like, I think right there is something that a movie that people would want. It's a character that's popular. You can do a Miles Morales live action movie. You can play out the Spider family in live action. You don't need to go multiverse with it, but in the world of Tom Holland, you introduce live action Miles Morales, you introduce live action Spider-Gwen or some version of that. You bring Tom Hardy over, you do Venom. Like, there's all these things that you can do. There's more things to do. I don't feel like we've run out of Spider-Man stories to tell because Spider-Man is an incredibly popular character with a robust set of side characters, a great rogues gallery, and a number of tales in the comics going back to the 1960s. So there's plenty more that you can do. Like right off the bat, you could just think pieces that are just on the table. You just do the live action version, you bring Venom over and you do them all with Tom Holland. And right there, you're doing something different and interesting that we have not seen that before. Like we've done the Venom story, but we didn't do it very well. So you could do, and because Tom Hardy is so different from Topher Grace versions, it would be interesting and different. So I think there's plenty of room there for what you can do, but they just keep picking the worst possible options that no one is interested in. Do you think X-Men and Mutants will be the next big story after Secret Wars? Yeah, I think they've kind of said that. Like, I think Kevin Feige's even said that that's what they're doing. Super chat from Scotty. Do you think Greta Gerwig directing Narnia studios may be trying to lean too much into film Twitter's tastes versus general audiences? I'm assuming it's not. I wouldn't blame it on the film Twitter version of it. It's just misreading two audiences. So Greta Gerwig is now the biggest female director on the planet, the most interesting, the most popular, like all of those things because of Barbie. She had prestige prior to Barbie, and now she has entirely mainstream success, like top tier mainstream success, because she had such an interesting spin on Barbie. And that interesting spin fit. It matched the zeitgeist, it matched Barbie, and it was just something that audiences, critics really resonated with. So then, Netflix, they have these properties that they have control of, and they're trying to think, like, we want to work that magic on ours too. So they offer 7 truckloads of money and 2 truckloads of creative freedom for her to do their magic on the property that they have, Narnia. But it's a misread of like Barbie and Narnia are not the same thing. um, to state the obvious, but like just the nature of them as IP, the nature of them as literally literature that stood the test of time. From like C.S. Lewis is a beloved philosopher, theologian, and novelist. Barbie is a iconic doll toy. Like they're so fundamentally different that and the nature of the way Barbie has been viewed in culture and used throughout the decades lent itself to being used in specific ways. It doesn't translate the same way that you kind of need and want to infuse ideas into Barbie, where with C.S. Lewis, with Narnia, you just want it to be faithfully adapted. The skill sets, the things that made it really appealing over with Barbie are exactly what makes me nervous about Narnia. And so I think it's just studio heads that are clueless. And it's kind of the same thing of 10 years ago when Kathleen Kennedy was just recruiting every hot director to do a Star Wars project. You get a Star Wars project, you get a Star Wars project, you get a Star Wars project, without stopping to think if they were a good fit and what this would actually look like. So they get Lord and Miller, two of the most like high energy, creative, outside the box thinkers to adapt or to film a Lawrence Kasdan script. Just like, it's stupid. These are dumb ideas. Like, obviously this was destined to be a train wreck behind the scenes because Lawrence Kasdan is a legendary screenwriter and they are known for their, in the traditional sense, in the 40 years ago sense, and they're known for being the cutting edge. And so this thing didn't work. It wasn't a good pairing. So they replaced them with Ron Howard, the safest possible person you could get to direct a Star Wars movie. And it's like don't pair up high energy, interesting guys with our classic screenwriter guy. That's a weird thing to do. And that's what this kind of looks like to me, of like, they get this very interesting, cutting edge, witty person that did a super interesting spin, Best Picture nominated spin on Barbie. Now let's do that to Narnia. Well, I don't want you to work that bag of tricks on Narnia, though. Jack Wolf, thoughts on Dune show? 4 episodes in and nothing has happened. So I've only watched the first episode. I plan to, I don't know if was there 2 episodes left? Like, I plan to binge it before it's over and do a full review. I've only watched the first episode, and it definitely did not wow me. It's big, wonderful looking production. It's cool that we're able to do television at that scope, scale, and size. But I think the inherent problem to it is that it's telling a story that's 1,000 years removed or whatever from the events of the Dune films in the book. It's so far before it, but it doesn't actually do anything that feels all that new and different. And we're dealing with the same prophecies and the same manipulations that we saw play out in the movies. And so it's like telling us how we got something, but we already know where it's headed. We already know what we're doing here. So, like, the first episode did not hook me. Like, I do plan on finishing watching it, but it definitely underwhelmed and seemed like you have the world of Dune that's, and instead of exploring all of this, we're still dealing with the same witches in the same looking settings and talking about spice and Arrakis. And it feels like the more interesting stories was if you'd gone over there. Not doing a prequel on the thing where we already know where this is all headed. But I'm only 1 episode in, so that's entirely a premature evaluation. Are you excited for Kraven the Hunter? I mean, I'm curious. It looks like harmless action, like the kind of some of the positive things people said about the Venom movies. They feel like a comic book movie from 20 years ago. Some people say that as a negative. Some people say it as a positive. I take it more as a positive, where you're in an era of less assuming comic book movies. So that's like, I look at Kraven the Hunter and like I hope that it's at least like a fun film, like just a fun action movie. Not great, but at least entertaining. Hopefully. Super chat. Let's not forget Amy Pascal is a bit of a weirdo. And her comments on Narnia are only going to reaffirm her weirdo status. My Catholic priest, Father Anthony, agrees with your stance on Narnia, as he thinks the Narnia project could be a step on a lot of people's toes. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that like not all IP are kind of viewed the same way, where there's ones that are just fun characters. There's characters like Batman that have been adapted and written by so many different people. And then there's ones that are like, Harry Potter's just from J.K. Rowling. It's just her world. And that's what Narnia is. It's just the world of C.S. Lewis. But beyond being beloved and timeless, standing the test of time, and only being written by one person, it's also infused with so much Christianity. So you just immediately, people are protective of it because you want someone that understands what it's actually about and properly tells the stories and explores the world of Narnia from a Christian worldview. And as soon as you hear new idea, new take, wildly different rock and roll, it sounds like you just want to take something that's beloved and do your own thing with it. It makes people really nervous, and it does not get people excited for it. Thoughts on Patrick Gibson as young Dexter Morgan? I mean, I can't comment on him until I see it. I was not crazy about this trailer they put out a week or two ago. Like, I'm there, I'm planning all that. But, yeah, it looked like fan fiction to me. Like, when they go through the office and like, look, it's a young version of everybody. It's like, ooh. That's a bad idea. Like, I don't like that at all. So, yeah, I have a lot of concerns. Asking about the thoughts on the Sonic clip, I answered that a while ago. So please, 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 if you ask a question, listen for the answer. Wolfman's got nards, friend of the channel. Apologies if asked already. Do you think Evans could return as Johnny Storm in Doomsday due to the build-up of the Fantastic Four? So I would assume that whatever we're getting is something a little bit different, a little bit off. It's not going to be a straight, he's back. I don't expect him as just Captain America, but they also know we want to see that. So I assume that whatever we're going to do, that both Robert Downey Jr. as well as Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, whatever happens with everyone that returns, it's kind of like a series of setups and payoffs. Series of, it's fun to see them at all. And then it's fun to see this other version of them. And then it's fun to see the payoff of the classic MCU character interacting with the variant. That's what I would kind of expect. In particular, because I assume this is going to play out probably over the two movies, Doomsday and Secret Wars. So to your question, do I think he'll be Johnny Storm building off of Fantastic Four? Man, my gut feeling at the moment is that I wonder if whatever they're going to do is going to be something different even from Johnny Storm and Captain America. If there's just some other way over outside the box variant thing they're going to do. Simply because it's too obvious to just have him come back as Captain America immediately. And we already had him come back as Johnny Storm in Deadpool and Wolverine. So you go, so what do we do? We don't want to, we don't do too obvious. We don't want to repeat ourselves. So what do? He's coming back, and how do you complete subverting the expectations? How do you keep people guessing? He shows up, and Spider-Man rips off his mask, and it's Chris Evans, like, or whatever it is, like something like, I don't know what it's gonna be, but I don't think the build-up would specifically be off Fantastic Four to that. Maybe that's maybe they could do that. Like, it's certainly on the table, and it gets, but because even the intrigue of our new Johnny Storm interacting with Chris Evans' Johnny Storm, it doesn't feel like we've established Johnny Storm enough for us to love him enough to be interested, for that to be that interesting. So maybe that's a little bit my hesitation on that one. Then again, maybe the flip side is you realize Johnny Storm's becoming like a major player in the MCU because he's in a movie this year, he's in a movie next year, and he's in a movie the year after that. And maybe the year after that too. It's like Johnny Storm starts to be one of these like reoccurring characters, and so you do make it. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot to that. Where all the ways that could play out. It'll be, yeah. I'm very curious on because I just don't think it's going to be, what they're doing isn't going to be straight obvious. There's going to be some twist to it. I just think there has to be, and because we just did Johnny Storm, I feel like there's got to be this other twist to it as well. No cap, Sean. I'd be surprised if you review Snow White next year. Really? It's extraordinarily likely that I will review Snow White next year. I don't know why you would doubt that I would review Snow White, because I've reviewed, I believe, all of the other Disney live action remakes. So that one will be a bit of a headache because there's no winning. If you like it, one half of the internet will attack you. And if you criticize it, the other half of the internet, like, you just hate Rachel Ziegler. Like, why did you bring up those weird comments she made? Why did you do this? And, oh, well, the original is outdated. Like, no matter what you say about this movie, the movie's become a culture war. Like, and whenever you do that, like, to the extent, literally, what is it? The Daily Wire are making their own version of Snow White as a counterbalance to this movie. Like, that's about as culture war as you can get. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll review it, but man, the comments on that one are going to be a headache. Excited for 28 years later. Yes. We've had a lot of great zombie stuff on television, but it's been a bit since we've had a big zombie movie. I actually never saw 28 Weeks Later. I saw 28 Days Later many times. This is actually one of the zombie movies my wife has seen and has opinions on. So that they're all kind of coming back to try and do it right. I'm actually very curious about that. So that's cool. I'm excited for it. I haven't watched the trailer yet just because I've been busy, but yeah. Did you see that John Campea said saying Robert Downey Jr. Dr. Doom desperate is pathetic take in his new topic video thoughts? So I guess what you're saying is because I was on the John Campea show last Friday, you're wanting to know my thoughts on John Campea saying anyone saying Robert Downey Jr.'s return as Dr. Doom is desperate is pathetic. We all have our different opinions. I mean, I think you can just look at the way that this is played out, that this wasn't plan A, they pivoted to it, and that they're announcing Robert Downey Jr. before they're announcing who the actual Avengers are. They're using the past to promote the future rather than building to the future and getting us excited for new things. It's just about the past. When we're making videos, sometimes we like to use hyperbole. There's no shortage of ways in which there's people that are overly negative or whatever, and sometimes you try and counterbalance them. But I mean, I think he's I obviously would. I think that it is a bit of a desperate move, and I think that the continued ways that they're announcing all of this, that it's focusing on the past, not the future, not the present team, but the past, feels desperate. And make of that, he can make of that what he wants. I'm a big boy, and so is he. Michael, when can we expect your Kraven and Lord of the Rings reviews? The Kraven the Hunter embargo, the press screening is tomorrow night. So I'm seeing it tomorrow night, and the embargo lifts the next day, I believe. So it'll be then. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings yet. Actually, maybe I'll watch it tonight. So I have it in my screeners. So, but in the next few days is what I would expect. There is a bit of a complication because of yeah, next few days. That's what matters. They're doing something new with Dexter. Yeah, there's a prequel series that comes out this Sunday. And like they're doing another season with Michael C. Hall. So the trailer teases how that's possible. But yeah, there's more Dexter on the way. All right, everybody. Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot. This is one I forgot to. Let me pull up an article on this one, actually. Okay. One more story. We got to bring this one up. Final story of the day, and I'll close this deal out. Thoughts on Jeremy Allen White being cast in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. But not just that. Being cast as who? Being cast as Jabba the Hutt's son. So, that's one of those ones that I saw that and I went, what? Now, here's the thing about this. The thing I'm actually most fun about this to me is the place where this was broken. It was reported by Jeff Snyder on the Christian Harloff show. Christian Harloff. I'm trying to talk about Christian Harloff, promote him, and then putting Sephora up there. Anyway, he had me on his channel earlier this year. He's a friend of the channel, super nice guy. So anytime there's a big win for him, I'm excited for it. That's the piece in all of this I'm most excited for, that this was broken on Christian Harloff's channel. But from Jeremy Allen White, he's the star of The Bear, which I watched the first 2 seasons of that this year. And he was one of the stars of last year's The Iron Claw, which I would probably currently say is my favorite movie of last year. And when I watched it, I hadn't seen him, but I hadn't seen The Bear yet. So I was like, okay, cool, who's this guy? And then The Bear won all these awards. So then my wife and I watched the first 2 seasons. So I only want for success for him getting big roles where he has his indie stuff and his mainstream stuff, a balanced career. I'm all for it. I don't know what this means. I guess he's just the voice actor? Is that what we're doing here? I guess it's what it has to be. And so if you're going to throw him in Star Wars as the voice actor for Jabba the Hutt's son, weird. I don't know whatever that means. I don't have a strong opinion on it because it doesn't strike me as the type of role where the casting makes a big difference to me. I don't know how to say it anyway. Like, there's characters where you hear they're going to bring this person into Star Wars and you go, oh, what's that person going to be as a Jedi? Or something like that. And you go, him as Jabba the Hutt's son, I guess he's just doing voice work. That's just less exciting. And then something like a Hutt, the nature of the role is already fairly confined. So that also kind of limits my excitement on some of it. So, anyway, I'm excited that Christian Harloff got to break a story with Jeff Snyder on his channel that got ran by everybody. It seems to be true. And, but Jeremy Allen White starting to get traction, getting bigger roles and bigger, flashier things. Cool. But, him as a Hutt, pretty sure that's voice work. I throw him in a costume. What are we doing here? I don't know. So, anyway, those are my quick thoughts on it. I don't feel like I had much of anything to say there because I just don't like someone being cast for voice work as a Hutt just isn't all that interesting to me, really. So we'll see what comes of it. I'm also just actually fun detail. Speaking of Christian Harloff, and when I was at his house, when I shot a video with him back in January, it was the day that the Mando and Grogu announcement was dropped. Like, I pulled up to his house, walked up to his fence, he opened it, and he goes, "Did you hear the Star Wars news?" And I went, "What's Star Wars news?" And he goes, "They're doing a Mando and Grogu movie that comes out in 2026. He's the one that told me, because and then we did a video about it and everything. So that was pretty cool, the way the universe played out, and now he broke this story again. So that's just kind of fun the way it all worked out. But as for Mando and Grogu, my excitement for it has been diminished simply because I thought Mando season 3 wasn't very good, and it's another thing that just kind of feels desperate to me. So, all right, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want me to do more videos like this, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. I would like to do more of these impromptu live streams and make that a little bit more the flavor of the channel. If you'd like to see that, let me know, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.